Hey, Tom here, FlipAnythingUSA. So, everything's kind of going to hell. Finally catching up with everything that's going on. Germany's freaking out. Italy's freaking out. Double-digit inflation. We got a lot of the same coming down here. And anyhow, we're going to talk about that. And anything else you guys want, you can call in there. And we'll be right back.
It's the best thing I ever did.
All right. Well, anyways, I've got Russ on the phone with me here. Russ is in the mentorship and also a pretty experienced investor. He is actually you just bought something today, right? You just went into contract, Russ?
Hey Tom, thanks for having me on here. Yeah, I just got a commercial deal under market value, found it on the MLS, and got it under contract. I'm supposed to close here next week. It's a cash sale, so got quite a bit of under market. So it's an inherited piece of property. I was able to act quickly on it, jumped on it, made sure there wasn't much time on the market for this listing, and grabbed it. I think it's a steal of a deal. I roughly estimating, I think there's over $1 million in equity. But once it's fully wrapped up, I'll be excited to show it with you guys. But as of now, I got the earnest money deposited, and I mean, even in times when the economy shifts, when the housing market starts to go down, I mean, you could leverage that and get super good deals. So. It's an exciting time.
It is an exciting time. So Russ here, like a lot of people in the mentorship and myself, we've been preparing. We've been getting rid of the stuff that we wanted to get rid of, and so we'd be a little more cash heavy and could take advantage of what's starting to happen. And I think it's just going to keep getting better. But, wouldn't you say, Russ, that one of the reasons you were able to take advantage of what you just had is not just that you were first one there. You were first one there, but there's probably some people are starting to sleep a little bit, right? Not everybody's got their nose in the MLS right now, except to see if they can get what they have sold. Yeah.
Right. So people are starting to, realize that, hey, the market is turning, because the media and, other, groups were saying, hey, it's still going good. And a lot of people are still, on that bandwagon. But now all of a sudden they're noticing, they list the property and it's not selling as quickly as I used to, 6, 7, 8 months ago. The interest rates are higher and buyers are getting cold feet. So a lot of sellers, some of them, if they're in a really tight spot and they really have to sell, they're willing to, discount quite a bit. And I mean, I just, was able to get one of those properties, a nice commercial, 8,000 square foot property, under contract. So it's a double whammy. Like Tom was saying, the only way we can stay up with inflation is by making more money. And by making more money, we have to go out there, look for those deals. In this case, I need to fix up the property a little bit, and then I'll be able to rent it out for a good, a good number.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. So Russ got himself a nice piece of commercial property, and it's a little bit of work, but not much. It looks like it's just a big shell for the most part, well located, got it far under market value. He hasn't closed it yet, so we've got to be a little bit cryptic until he gets it closed. But, I mean, that stuff is out there, and there's going to be more of it. I've already seen several price reductions on a lot of the properties that I've been looking at. And, this is the thing. The Fed's going to raise the rate again, probably another 0.75 of a point. And I think that's this month. And it's just going to further, all these guys that bought property just recently with the intention of flip, they're getting further and further away from their dream because they're stuck. Because it's going to take whoever's going to buy them out, that money's getting more and more expensive. In fact, if you just waited 3 months, that's going to be 2.25% more than it was 3 months ago. And so it's going to be interesting. I was looking at, this fund, who was it? Ryan Pineda's he got this thing going for, I don't know, 200 and some odd units or something, and I thought it was a mistake from the beginning. I thought it was way overpriced what they were projecting, but I mean, oh my gosh, now I think that position is worse than ever for them. I don't even know why he bothered with it, to be honest. The whole thing it just didn't make any sense to me. You know what I'm talking about?
I mean, when the market's good, everyone's high-fiving each other. It's easy to make money.
Everybody's a rock star.
Everyone's a rock star. Everyone's trying. So my key indicator when, your grandma is starting to get into real estate, we're in a bubble. When everyone becomes a realtor, that there's a realtor in every family. That's like a litmus test for me. We're in a bubble. So I just think those guys got a lot of people, swindled in those deals, and it's going to be painful over the next, couple of months to a year. I think there might be some, lawsuits going on, and so I guess we'll see what happens. But for us, looking to find deals, this is like the perfect opportunity. Yes, I mean, inflation is going up. Everything is getting more expensive. I just got a letter, that the gas bill is going to go up by 25% starting next month. So all the utility bills, everything's getting more expensive. But at the same time, we're seeing, the housing market decline. So we got to make more money to keep up with the inflation. And at the same time, prices are falling down. So here's your chance to, get a good deal if you have some money set aside.
Yeah.
But yeah, inflation is real. I'm definitely noticing it myself too.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you one thing in good news is I think Elon Musk taking over Twitter. I think there would be a little more balance in talking on that. I think that, the whole country has been, guided, influenced by the media, and one political party more than another. Hasn't been very balanced lately, which I don't think has been good, but I think it's going to be better now because more people will kind of talk about what really is happening. One thing, even like I say, this hogwash that the country's been fine, that, things are good. The president just said the other day, we're doing great. The economy's growing. I mean, he doesn't know what the hell's going on. And then you got Jeff Bezos, who head of Amazon. He's got his finger on the pulse like nobody else. They're going to lose money this quarter compared to, it's the worst quarter I think they've had in many years. And he's got his finger right on the pulse. He can see buying is down. People are not spending the money. And here's the worst part, and this is when I was talking about that Ryan Pineda property. That Ryan Pineda property, that thing to me is a disaster because it's like a C-class property. Well, who lives in C-class properties? Lower income people. And unless it's a HUD house, I don't know. If it's a HUD housing, maybe then everybody's, the government's going to cover the check on it. But again, that property, the people that are in that property are the ones that are most affected by gas being higher, by inflation. The people that are living check to check, all of a sudden, the gas costs double in their tank. The food, the milk, the eggs have almost doubled. Everything. You can't even eat cheap now. It's getting tougher and tougher. And those are the people that are paying rent that aren't going to be able to afford to pay more. And so, it's also in a kind of a high crime rate area, which doesn't help things because now you've got more crime. Well, you know what? Yeah, I don't know. You saw Pelosi had her place got broke into, right? Senator Pelosi got her husband got beat up. Did you hear about that today?
I heard about that. I got some news feed coming in. That's crazy.
Yeah.
You think the barriers are really high in the area, but
well, that is like
what happened there.
Yeah, that is one of the screwed up cities there is. I remember being in San Francisco 40 years ago, more than 40 years ago probably, and there was a woman laying with her tit hanging out, leaning on a mailbox. It's always been kind of a dump, but it's gotten so much worse. And now people are allowed to steal up to $800 and not have to go to jail, or it's not considered a crime at that point. Well, it's finally catching up with her, and to be honest, of course I don't want anybody getting hurt, but at the same time, Kate Steinle got murdered right in front of her dad, by, a criminal. And so maybe this will wake up some of the politicians, Steve, they'll get a taste of reality. They're behind these walls all the time, and they're always protected. They get a taste of the shit that they're putting out there for everybody else to deal with. So I think maybe a lot of good will come from this. We'll see. What do you think? Are you there?
For some reason my phone's cutting in and out, so I didn't really catch that. But I mean, the situation is, unfortunately, in some places it's getting worse. In other places, we're getting grass movements, and people are talking with their elected officials to, clean up the homeless camps, clean up, the drug problems. Like we're from Oregon here. And the Republican Party has a pretty good chance of winning the governor's race. We got Christine Drazan running against Tina Kotek, and it will be like the first time since the 1980s if we get a Republican governor. And I think a lot of that has to do with people getting, fed up where things are going, where their properties are getting vandalized with, homeless, crime everywhere, in some parts of the city. And people want change, and maybe we'll get some. We'll see.
Yeah, and I have no real love for either party, to be honest. But the Democrat Party has really gone to hell. I mean, they're like progressives. It's like ultra left and left, and it no matter what, it looks like the progressives have taken over that party, and that's why. And the progressives have they just don't seem to be. Have any fiscal sense, and so the money's going out. Defunding the cops.
Yeah, I mean
all the mess that they've got, and you've got it there in Portland. Even here in my part of Texas, we had to file a petition in order to get the council to reverse what they've done in defunding the cops and keeping the homeless on the street. They allowed camping everywhere, and now it took a vote of the entire. We had 64% of the city that voted against it. So they couldn't say, oh, this is a one-party issue. They couldn't say, oh, this is just the Republicans or just the Democrats. It was both parties came together. And that's kind of hopefully what's going to happen everywhere is just get rid of this ridiculous stuff that's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a strong believer of, making where we live better. I mean, if I buy a property, I try to clean it up, make it nicer, for the whole neighborhood, not just the property. I mean, I think that should be for all of us, everywhere where we live,
What pride
if
of
it's
ownership.
Nicer, the values.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But I mean, if you listen the way the whole, they're just making it impossible to have home ownership. They're making it tougher all the time. And more people are embracing renting than ever, wouldn't you say? Or at least that's what they push, is for people to, to rent in some areas. And talk about affordable housing. It's like, give housing to people that, just let them, pay for their rent, whatever they need. And, there's nobody wants to work for it. The American dream was to work and have a great job and have a nice property to call home.
But I mean, look for the rest of us that are willing to work. It makes it super easy. If you're willing to put in the hours and if you're willing to hustle, if everyone else is playing at home Xbox, or PS5, I mean, it's free takings.
Right,
so
right. But
it's a whole lot easier for the rest of us investors.
Right. Well, that's the thing. I'm a conservative, but I want everybody to make money, because you make money off those people that have money. Everybody needs to make money. It helps everybody. The more money, more people that are out there productive, it's, but if we're getting way too many dependents, way too many dependents. And that's why we're $30 trillion in debt. And that's, I don't know, people keep reelecting the people that have been overseeing this mess that we're in. Pelosi's one of them. 40 years. She's been there over 40 years. Schumer's been there over 40 years. These guys, I mean, we need term limits more than we need anything right now. That would be like the best, because these guys get entrenched and then they just, like I say, they purely self-serving, very self-serving. I think Pelosi, in fact, I think she's worth $100 million now, and somehow she got there from a job that only pays $160,000 this year. and it probably paid $30,000 when she first got the job, or $20,000 40 years ago. I don't even know, but it's way out of whack. What she's achieved and what she has income wise. It's inside trading and everything else that they got to do. So it's just, again, it's all the wrong motivation. But it takes an effect because as an investor, and I'm keeping this in the context of being an investor, by the way, everybody that's watching, is as an investor, you like certainty. You like to know what the taxes are going to be. You like to know, you got to be able to plan. And when you have an unstable government that are taking away perks and putting them in, or picking the winners, buying out or subsidizing certain parties or certain entities and certain things in order to they got to kind of pick the winners, and it's just a mess. It's just a mess. You got to let some things fall, let things fail, and then let the little guys like us come pick them up, and then we make money off those pieces that fall. So I don't know what else is on your mind. You said you're competing with some pretty big companies, right? When you're going to these auctions that you're buying?
Those big companies, they're finally starting to notice, things are slowing down, and they're not as aggressive as, say, they were even a month ago.
Right.
So the problem is they get these properties at auction for high-end dollar, where it doesn't make any sense at all, and then now they realize they can't sell them anymore. So they're stuck. I read an article today, Open Door, for example. They have this iBuyer program in Phoenix. They bought up a whole bunch of properties, and now they're kind of stuck. They can't sell those homes. Just like Zillow, I think Zillow lost over $800 million on the buyer program. So the market shifted, and they caught themselves, being stuck with a whole bunch of homes that are worth a whole lot less than what they paid for them. Right. So, you always have to be careful, especially with us little investors, making sure you know your numbers. I guess Open or Zillow just had, I don't know what happened there, how they made such a huge mistake. But for a little guy like us, if you do something like that, that's it. It's game over. You got to make sure you know your values, and always buy under market. That way, if the market does go down, at least you have some room to, have a cushion. But I am seeing, in commercial being affected, residential being heavily affected, especially the higher end luxury properties. Deals spells like, I know some of the best deals, I was able to get was with the last downturn, where I bought below even the cost to build.
Mm-hmm.
Some properties I picked them up for like $150,000, which cost $400,000 to build. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword. You see, all these issues in society, and if at least you're investing in real estate, you might have some money to be able to go out and help, the homeless or people in trouble or people in your community. So if you don't have anything, you're not really able to really help much. So.
Yeah, and I've seen that. When I came to Texas about 30 years ago buying property, half the town had gone bankrupt. Even the bankers had gone bankrupt. And everybody was in there just was no money in the town. The money that was coming into the town was money like me coming from out of town and coming in buying. And like I said, I bought properties for, a fraction of what they were worth, a fraction of what they cost to build. And that does happen. And a lot of people have never seen that in their lifetime, but you're about to see it again because it does happen. And it happens sporadically across the country in different areas too. They get depressed for whatever reason. Like when Biden came in and shut down the oil, the pipeline that was coming from Canada, just devastated. Took away all those jobs that had just popped up, and people had new businesses and everything. And all of a sudden, boom, your economy's gone. And so then you have opportunities in there to buy. But that's the other thing is, Russ, we rely on other people, right, to buy property from us. Everybody needs to do well for it really to be ideal. You got to have consumers. So, I don't know.
I know there's like a diesel shortage right now. At least that's what I heard. But at the same time, I hear other people.
A deal shortage?
Uh-huh.
Is that what you said?
Diesel
Oh, diesel.
fuel.
Oh, diesel.
Diesel fuel, yeah. And like you said, the pipeline was shut down. I mean, why not just open it up and then, just give back all the energy we need?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it just everything that gets politicized just destroys it for everything, for everybody else. And that's why I say, hey, by the way, this is my book, Wake Up and Smell the Real Estate. I urge you to get a copy. It's been a bestseller on Amazon, Audible, and Kindle. Also, I've got the mentorship at FlipAnythingUSA.com. Be sure to check that out. And also, please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button on the channel, but really hitting subscribe it would mean a lot to me. I'd appreciate it. Yeah, Russ. So and that's the other thing, and you got to keep a certain amount of cash on hand. Even after, I mean, we all got extra money right now, but you got to be careful. You know what I mean? Because, even though I know you got a great deal on this building, I feel pretty confident about what you got. We looked at it and talked about it earlier. But it's surprising. Like I say, I bought an apartment building, and I looked at the history of it before I bought it. It had sold they went belly up. It went back to the bank. The bank sold it for $1,050,000. That person that bought it, and this is all during a downturn, they almost immediately got in trouble. It went back to the bank again, sold for $750,000. Got worse, went back to the bank again, sold for $550,000. Went back to the bank again, and then I came and bought it for $340,000. So even at $1,050,000, what it had sold for 4 buyers before me, that was still less than construction cost at that time. And now here I'm buying it for $340,000. I mean, that's probably what the land was worth at one time. And
how long did it take to get down to that $350,000?
I'm going to guess it was about 3 years. Really rapid, pretty rapid.
You think our current situation is going to be something similar?
Yeah.
3 years down?
Yeah, I do think it'll happen. I think, like I say, we talk about it in the mentorship. Your only hedge is to buy under market. You got to buy far enough under market, and then if you want to be a long-term holder, you can hold. Or if you got an asset that brings in a cash, like you're going to get cash flow from that, assuming that I feel really good about retail. You're in a good area. Somebody will fill that spot. You may be able to offer a better deal than a competing building. So you may be able to offer your space for less than somebody else because you bought it right. So you'll fill your space, and even if you miscalculate or you expected to sell it for more, you know what I mean? You got to hedge against years if things got really bad. But I have seen that it's a false bottom. Things drop, and that's really that's the best one to refer to is the one I just described. Each time they thought it dropped, and it was the bottom. And that happened recently too, in 2009 actually. The Vegas condos, they all of a sudden they dropped from $750,000 to $450,000, and everybody was like, "Oh man!" And I knew some guys that stretched, and they bought another condo. They bought another condo because they had just been somebody that bought them for like $450,000, and then they dropped to $350,000, and then they jumped in and they bought them again, and then guess what? They dropped again to $250,000. So it's like, oh, it fell, and then it falls again. It's like things can keep dipping. And just if you look at the stock market, you can see it happen there too. But you see all these big companies are losing money now, and a lot of people are getting concerned. And the other thing that I came away with, I was watching this other day, they were talking about just business. In other words, business right now, they surveyed the businesses, and nobody is planning on hiring. You know what I mean? Almost nobody plans on hiring.
I heard of that.
Yeah. So, and that's what precedes firing and laying people off is, well, no, we're not hiring. In other words, we're concerned. But it's always wonderful. It's like, oh yeah, we have plans to, maybe hire 10 more people or 100 people or 1,000 people, depending on how big a company is. There's none of those plans right now. The plans right now are just like, wait and see.
Well, hold on, Tom. So where's all that money going? All these big companies are losing money. I mean, money can't get just destroyed. It has to go somewhere. Usually it transfers from one asset class to another. I mean, what's going on with the money? Where's it going?
I don't know. It'll be interesting if things start going back to the bank, because when things start going back to the bank, that's, and hopefully we have access to it. In other words, you want the banks to, have to get rid of it right away. And then that way we can jump in and it not just be reserved for big lots being sold to big institutions. So that's what I'm after. What about you guys watching in the audience? Are you anybody concerned? Anybody worried at all about? You worried about your jobs? Are you worried about the market? Are you investors? And what do you see happening? I've been very fortunate. I love retail business, and that's the bulk of my tendency is not just, it's industrial and retail. So I got people that manufacture, and I got people that just resell. And a couple of them have reported me, actually even just a phone call earlier today, and they're kind of an elective spending kind of a thing, like recreational stuff. And they said, yeah, damn, we're starting to feel it, And and good thing I gave them a good deal. And this is somebody I leased to. And I knew when I put them in the space that I was giving them a good deal, but also they were a very long legacy, company. They've been around a long time. And so I'm glad. I mean, I'm just glad I gave them a deal because I know they're not going anywhere. And at the same time, I know that they're conditioned. They've been around 35 years. That's the thing. When you've been around 35 years, 40 years, me as an investor, I've been that on the long. You've seen things happen before that make you fearful early, or that give you a wary eye. You know what I mean? And a lot of people don't have that. If you're 30 years old or something, and no offense because I know you're younger, but you're smarter. You're smarter than the average guy, so don't think I'm pinning you by age. But a lot of people get in under 30 years old, and they're going, "Gee, I've had a great 6-7 years, or 10 years or whatever." They hadn't really seen any hard times yet, and you got to see the hard times to know how bad things can get. Let's see. Liam wrote. He says, I personally have zero confidence in the economy right now. Yeah, I understand. Let's see. David wrote, he's also in the mentorship, layoffs are on my mind, not affected yet, but saving in case. Yeah, good for you, David. Smart. Brian Gonzalez wrote, more price reduction in my area. Yep. And more homes staying in the market 30-plus days. Yep. That's kind of here too, buddy. Fahid wrote, what should we do now if we are not holding cash and need to make some? Well, you better go to work.
Yeah. Maybe essential businesses, that won't go away. Make money there.
Yeah, I don't know. It's good to have a skill. Yes, and it's real important to have a skill. And there are people making money. I won't give away the company, but I talked about it to some of the people in the mentorship, and I'll talk about it tomorrow in the mentorship. There are some shortages of certain things that people are capitalizing on, and this whole mess that got us here, it's all the stimulus, all the money we gave away. It pushed up sales everywhere, including Amazon, gave them false projections. They thought that, this is never going to stop. And what they didn't realize, I think Amazon didn't realize, the reason they got all the money they got is because of all the stimulus. People were handed a check and they spent it. And, that's kind of the theory is you give money away, people spend it, and it helps the economy. But that was just too much. They gave way too much money away, way too much.
Do you think, Tom, we'll see a correction in the prices with inflation for all the goods, or will it just keep going? I know homes it's kind of like weird. You go to Home Depot and everything's going up in price, You buy all the materials, you build the home, and it costs you more to build the house than what you can sell it for. I mean, we're seeing a price in homes, but do you think we'll see a price in, everything else, or are we in for once it's up, that's it?
The only thing for sure I know is I don't know. And the reason I say I don't know, I would be much more inclined to make guesses and projections, but you don't know how stupid the government is. They'll do stuff that you just can't believe. They'll bail out people that shouldn't be bailed out. You know what I mean? They'll give stimulus to people that don't need it. I mean, the stimulus was the worst thing we ever did. I say we, I didn't do it, but it was the stupidest thing. I was irritated because, you know, I've got kids that are working that make decent money. And, you know, I had one of my oldest daughters said, "Hey, Dad, did I get my stimulus check?" And I'm like, God, I don't even want to hear it. You know, I don't even want to talk about it. It pisses me off because she's working and she's getting a check. And she's getting a check that she didn't ask for. She's just getting it. And that's the government. You know, that's the chicken in every pot. That's politics. That's people saying, "Here, look what I'm doing for you. I'm giving you money. I'm giving you money." And that's buying votes. Now, I'm not saying about my daughter's vote, but she knew she had a check coming. And that's, you know, it was silly. That stimulus should have been, I mean, they gave out 10 times more money, more than 10 times more money than they needed to. From the very beginning, they just needed to help the people that were affected that didn't have a job or lost their job. But instead, they said, no, everybody that makes less than 60 or 70,000 a year gets a check. And then, of course, what'd that do? It threw us, all these people jumped into Bitcoin. You know, everybody thought, I'm going to parlay this into $1 million. So they bought the Bitcoin. And for a while, Bitcoin just kept going up. And now the reality is hit. Bitcoin's gone to shit, and it's going to get worse. And, you know, it's just wishful thinking. But if you're in that reality for that little short duration, go ahead.
Yeah, it's like that dog coin, you know. There's the guy who became a millionaire, and I think he bought like $100,000 worth of dog coin before the whole thing exploded and went, you know, to the moon. And then just started crashing.
Yeah, and that guy is like, I mean, he is like a drug dealer or a drug addict, but it's not drugs. It's you know, it's the Dogecoin. He calls it Dogecoin. But yeah, that guy is like, he just keeps expecting to get high. You know, he had a couple $1 million, and now he keeps saying, "I'm holding on to it. I've got the faith." And he held on to it until he went from a 2 millionaire to a 1 millionaire. You know, now they make fun of him because he's a thousandaire. And before long, he'll just be zero. He'd be worth less than what he paid for it if he holds on long enough. And you know, it's just silly. But that's the problem with, you know, just, I mean, he almost,
going back to real estate.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, going back to real estate, like we know, you know, Dogecoin, it could, you know, be going down to zero. I mean, you don't think real estate could go down to zero, right? Even if everything's gloom and doom, there's no way it could go down to zero.
It'll never go down to zero. It'll never go down to zero because there's always property taxes to pay on it. So you got to have money to pay you know, you're going to get it taken away from you. You're going to figure it out. I mean, it's never going to go to zero. But, I mean, if it goes down to half of what you paid for it, it might as well be zero. It's zero to you. So like I say, I am kind of practical in as much as I just think, you know, I like populated areas. If you get too far out of town, those places don't usually, you know what I mean? If you're on the outside of town, on the outside edge of town where you're starting to have commercial properties and that sort of thing, you don't have anything on the other side of you. All the money's just coming from one side, right? Because you're on the outside edge, so you're only getting traffic from one side. Those things dwindle. If you ever go to a town that's grown and then died, you'll see that the stuff on the outside edge is dead. And it's because they're not in the middle. So everything I own is in the middle. Everything I have is in the middle of its community. You know, the last construction, the last land that I bought, everything is right in the middle. It's got all the utilities, it's got sewer, it's got electric, it's got everything. You know, it's got customers, it's got people living all around it. Those kinds of buildings, and I assume this one you just bought is like that, the one you're about to close on. That's what.
It's right in the middle. It's like 2 minutes away from the freeway.
Yeah, so that's a very
businesses all around.
Yeah, and you're buying it so far under construction cost. You're very safe with that one, but.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is that's my hedge. Is I have properties that are prime. I'm not saying they're an A, but I'm saying they're prime in as much as they're right in the middle of the neighborhood. You know, they're where people can get to.
And on Tom, and that's super important. I mean, imagine a guy, you know, scraping every dollar he has to, you know, from a 9-to-5 job. It takes him years to get the down payment together. and then he makes some mistakes and buys on the edge of town because it's cheaper, and then he loses a lot of it because the prices fall.
Well,
I
and
mean, that's why it's important to have a mentor that teaches you, don't do that.
Yeah, it's the speculation is what really ruins. You can get very rich speculating. You can get very rich, but you can also be wiped out. And so your hedge in speculating is having enough money that you can afford to speculate. In other words, I bought a piece of land for $2.5 million less than a year ago. I would normally not buy such a big piece of vacant land that it just sits there, doesn't make any money, and just costs money just to paying the taxes alone. But my hedge against that is I already make money. I can cover it. I'm not worried about it. But if somebody made that gamble and they didn't have the wherewithal to deal with it, then they lose everything. And you just got to be careful. You got to look at things and go, if everything went to shit, can I hang on to this? And if the answer is no, then you probably should get rid of it, because you're in that kind of area where it's a flip of the coin. We don't know how bad it's going to get. We know it's going to be bad. We just don't know exactly how bad it's going to get.
No, what really stuck with me in one of the mentors class, you said, just if you're selling a property and someone comes along and gives you an offer, ask yourself, are you willing to pay that price for that property you're selling? If not, sell it,
Yeah.
So that really stuck out to me.
Yeah, and the term I usually use, Russ, is I say, if you're not selling it, you're buying it. if you turn down,
Right.
I mean, if somebody offers you $300,000 for a piece of property and you say no, then you just bought it for $300,000. There's no other way to look at it, because if you're turning down $300,000, then you're paying $300,000 for it. And now I understand the argument in as much as, well, if I sell it, then I got to pay the gains on it, and I understand that, and that is a fair argument, but at the same time, you are still turning down $300,000 for that property. So that's why I say, if somebody offers you more for a property than you're willing to pay for it, then you better really ask yourself, do I want to buy this property? Or can I afford to buy this property? Because if you have enough of those properties like that you're saying, I don't want to sell it, I'm going to keep it. If you have enough of those that are marginal, that they all can go down and take you down, then you're probably making a mistake. You'd be better off to get rid of it and put some cash in your pocket and, dress for the crash and be ready to go. But what else? See, Vito Frank. Go ahead.
What are you doing on the property? Are you just going to hold on to it, or what's your plans on that?
Oh, on my land, that land that I bought, I was already offered more just recently for it than I paid for it. $300,000 more, but that's not enough. I figured I got $1 million sitting there. But even if it doesn't, my hedge is I have an alternate plan that'll bring money in on that property with minimum building. And we'll talk about that in the mentorship tomorrow. I don't want to say it on here, but you might already have a guess about what that's going to be. But so Vito Frank wrote, they will eventually lower rates, and that will be the time to buy. Yeah, I'll tell you one thing you can count on right now, Vito. If you can buy a property and it pencils right now at those higher rates, you're probably kind of safe. If you can buy something right now and it pencils and it makes sense, I mean, when I say makes sense, you're buying it under market. It's going to cash flow. It's going to give you a decent rate, cap rate, and the tenants can deal with the rents that they're paying. Then fine, because you're probably going to be in good shape because the interest rates are just going to go up after this, but if you want to keep it, hold it, and have the income coming in, then it's fine. But because if you get something that pencils right now, because you're paying 2.25% more than you were, a few months ago for the same money, then you probably got a decent deal. And if rates do go down, and I'm not so sure they're going to go down for a very long time. You got to remember, they were over 14-15% when I was a kid, when I first started in real estate, and it took them this long to get down and stay down for so long. They were about this. I mean, interest rates are higher than they are right now in 2009, so they're going to go up.
Right.
Yeah. So there's no reason for them not to go up. I don't know why. Once in a while, I hear somebody so confident that, oh no, they're going to go back down. I said, well, I don't know if they're going back down from here. So let's see. MA77 said, believe it'll go lower and come back up next year. Yeah, I don't think they're going down. I don't think they're going down for a good 2 years. But I hope you're right. Doesn't really matter to me, but I hope for other people that have.
Right.
And that's the other thing, and you kind of in that business. If things are, all these people that have variable loans, and like I say, Grant Cardone may be one of these guys that, you got these huge apartment buildings, and your mortgage goes up, and your tenants start to leave, or a certain percentage of them. I mean, how's that going to affect? What's going to happen? The people talk about the big companies and what they're doing, but the big companies are made up of a bunch of little guys that invested with them. So, big guys make. And I was going to say, you were talking earlier about the companies that you're competing with right now when you go to some of those auctions. And this is one of the things I don't like about the bigger companies is they have guys out there that they have to fill a quota. And so these guys buy very carelessly sometimes. And sometimes it's a godsend if they're buying from you. But I don't know. What else there in the audience?
Kind of like what,
Say that again, Russ, please.
yeah, kind of like what Open Door and Zillow did. I mean, it's not their own money, but like I was saying before, I had a buddy that sold to Zillow, and they paid way, way more than what I would have listed it for. So they paid probably like at least 140,000 more than what I would have even listed that property for. So, I mean, my buddy was super happy about it, but Zillow ended up losing money.
Yep. Well, I mean, the fact is, in this business, we make money off the ignorance of others. People pay too much. People sell too cheaply. And, that happens. And, as far as investing, people make big mistakes. They, like I said, even Amazon, because of the growth with all the stimulus, that was really a fake growth. In other words, it was temporary. They made long-term plans based on that money that was coming in. And they have a number of places that they leased all over the country, huge places that they've leased. They're subletting that space now. You can even see it, I think, even on CoStar. They have large spaces that they're not using, they're not utilizing, and so they're putting them back on the market and subletting the space that they originally thought they'd be using. So, Liam, why are you so concerned if you're still listening? He said average days on market for single-family homes in my area, 140. That's a long time, man. That's triple what they were from the time you bought your last good deal, which, by the way, Liam's in the class. He's made over $550,000 between two deals. He's doing very well. It's very cool. And I think, actually, you may be one of the new, you may want to be the new record breaker here, Russ. If you make $1 million on that building you just bought today, that'll be fantastic.
Well, comps are coming in roughly 1.6, 1.5. I'm looking at, in that area. So if I get it for that amount, and I roughly estimate, it's going to cost me about 100, 150 to bring it up. So it's going to be $1 million plus, maybe 1.2, 1.3 in equity. That'll be pretty cool. Yeah, and imagine working 9 to 5, making that kind of money. How many years will it take you?
Oh yeah, no, it's yeah. And so those of you watching. So again, I just remind you, wake up and smell the real estate. If you got any interest in real estate, get my book. I've been doing it 41 years, and this is like just the quickest, easiest way to get started. It's not everything, but it's really, really great. It's for $10, $20 in paperback. Just go read the reviews on it. Urge you to get it. You can get it on Amazon, Audible, and Kindle. Also, mentorship is at FlipAnythingUSA.com. I don't have my green screen, so I can't put it up. And this is the new set, by the way. Chris, who is in the mentorship, helped knock this thing up. And anyways, and these are just some of the history behind me from jobs past and properties past. Like the first foreclosure, or not foreclosure, I actually deeded it back. The first property I ever lost money on was this one right here. This was on the fence of 80 acres. So it's nice that I still have it to remind me of those mistakes, of that mistake anyways. What else? You got anything else, Russ? What else is on your mind?
Yeah. I mean, just keep looking every day. I mean, every day you're driving, always keep an eye out. Take the extra, mile to drive around neighborhoods. Deals are out there. I mean, especially right now, look at properties that, are sitting on the market for over 60, 90 days. Call in. Don't be shy.
Well,
Ask if they'll take a lower offer.
That's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up too, because a lot of people think the stuff on the MLS is dead, and what happens is people will hold off on adjusting the price or coming down to reality, and then when they do, they'll make a big jump down. And the property that Russ just put under contract today is a good example of that, because they had a price reduction. They put it on the market, a significant price reduction, and then Russ came in and offered $200,000 less than their new lower price, and they took it. Right? Is that correct?
Oh, right. Plus, I had the listing agent double end on the commission. At first, when I referenced that, hey, I want to come in with this lower price, I was told there's absolutely no way that's going to happen. We just made a significant price reduction. We got a bunch of agents calling. There's going to be a lot of multiple offers. I'm like, well, I'll let you double end. He's like, sir, let me get to work.
Yeah.
And the next thing I know, the offer is signed. So that, extra little commission, instead of me taking it, that really motivated the listing agent. Hey, I got over 200 extra off, in addition to what they just took in off recently.
So did you say you went in and bought as a principal? You let somebody take?
I went in and bought as a buyer, and the listing agent represented me.
Right.
So the listing agent got the double end.
Cool.
Because when I was telling him to first do it initially, I was going to write it up myself, the offer. And he was telling me, there's absolutely no way that, it's going to work out. But once he was getting that double commission, he said he'll make it happen, and he did.
Yeah,
so
that's awesome.
I guess those are little tricks you can learn, from the mentorship. So
yeah, well, you're doing fantastic, man. Really, really cool. And like I say, you may be the newest single greatest profit. Although we've got people in the mentorship made $700,000 on a single deal, $800,000 on a single deal, and it just keeps getting better, and it's really cool.
It's really, not profit until I sell it. It's equity.
Well, it's equity. It is equity, and I always make that clear. But you may sell it. But if you do sell it, like I say. But still, it's fantastic, because and you actually Ken, another rock star in the group. He's built $1 million plus equity just on 2 purchases. He made $500,000 or $700,000 just in equity on 2 different deals, and so now he's got a significant income with not very much money. And now Rich has actually joined the club too. Rich is fantastic. Rich started with 150, and with that $150,000 he started with, now he has about $1 million in debt, and he's got $2.3 million in real estate. And he's making $150,000 a year income on that real estate. So we went from investing 150. Now he started with 150, and now he's got 150,000 a year coming in, and he started with 150. So he's now got his money back. Whatever he's got, his full deposit he put down is now basically coming back every year. So that's pretty amazing. Everybody's doing
right.
It's cool, and it doesn't surprise. The only thing that surprised me that everybody's done so well so quickly. It's really great. So, but I better I'm going to go have some dinner with my son, and we're going to watch the rest of Schindler's List, which is a very long movie. So we got an hour left on that. Boy, you think it's going to be bad now? Nothing compares to that history. So, anyways, hey. Russ, I really appreciate it. Glad you came in, and it's always a pleasure talking to you. And
absolutely, thanks for having me on.
So I did have one more question for you. I was going to ask you, at what point are you going to start getting nervous? Like, is there any particular big employers in your area that would make you nervous if they, when I was a kid, my parents. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we have Intel. It's a huge employment. They make the computer chips and stuff. With the whole Taiwan situation, we're getting billions and billions of dollars poured into my area just because we're trying to get away from China and the whole chip, manufacturing.
Oh, there's incentives.
So that's a lot of high-end. Yeah, so I'm getting like, well, I mean, our area is getting billions and billions of federal, dollars coming in,
Yeah.
to get off of Taiwan and China. So I think that's really helping us stay
Yeah.
afloat.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
if Intel goes, I mean, that's it. It's game over here.
Right,
But,
right. Wait,
so
and
far they're
so,
expanding.
yeah, and I'll give you an example. So my father worked in aircraft. He worked at Boeing and Lockheed and different things like that. Big contracts to be on the table, and then the government would cancel them, and then massive layoffs. And so that's the kind of industry I've seen affect people in my family. And another thing, this is going to be another killer for everybody in that aircraft business is, it's bad enough we got Airbus jumps on, and now Airbus is competing with Boeing and Lockheed and different stuff. Well, now they just approved China. China now has basically, they just passed the first big hurdle where they can start building, large passenger aircraft. And so now we got another. I'm telling you, China's going to be the worst competitor ever for us because, they can make stuff for peanuts. And they don't even spend money on design. They just steal it from somebody else. So,
Right.
yeah, they do it right. They know how to make money.
I mean, another big thing is construction. A lot of the folks work in construction, so if home sales are dropping, the construction is gonna dry up. That's a lot of high end, paying jobs, electricians, plumbers, framers.
Absolutely, and that's and that's the thing, builders, because that's my area. I was a contractor and a cabinet maker. I was a general on homes, and I was a sub for others. I was sub for some contractors, and I was the contractor hiring subs. And when things dry up, it's a really lonely place to be because you got nowhere to go. Nothing's being built. I mean, you got to leave town. People would, you go to where the country, like maybe go to Portland, where Intel has still got some money coming in, and they're still building. But yeah, construction jobs, they're really the kind of jobs that you actually chase. You follow. It's like a storm. You go where there's work. So, but yeah, this is going to be fun. Hey, Aaron, glad you're in here. Tell me, I've looked into the demographic collapse of Chinese labor. Yeah, we could talk about that tomorrow. Actually, Aaron, we'll do that in the class. China's got some problems, but I don't think they got near the problems we got. We got the worst. We don't even qualify for the aid that we give other countries. We don't qualify for the aid that we require other countries, to be on a balanced budget. We're not on a balanced budget. We don't even qualify for aid. And there's only one America. And then that's it. So we got to do what we can do to preserve it and try to make it last, because there's nothing else. There's no other place like America. America's the best, so everybody comes here. And, and unfortunately the way...
That is true. We got to preserve, make it better.
Well, I tell you, the immigrants that come into this country that come out of communist areas, they realize, oh, shit, don't let that happen. They know there's only one America, and that's why they came here. And they can see the writing on the wall. They see, and they're, and so that's probably, it's going to be good for us for a lot of the immigrants to vote. Hopefully, though, we just get plenty of legal immigration in here that can vote. So, anyways, let's call it quits, man. And Russ, you going to be in tomorrow?
Yeah, I will.
Good deal. All right.
God willing,
Yeah.
It'll be good.
All right. Well, I look forward to seeing you in the mentorship tomorrow, and everybody else that's watching that's in the mentorship. And those of you that are watching, please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, but number one, subscribe. And we got a great group here, and we're dialing things in here on the set. We're a little bit screwed up here as far as not being super clean and tight with the show here, but it'll improve, I promise. So thanks everyone for watching, hanging out. Always a pleasure. Aaron, Liam, Fahid, Como. Some of you numbers guys. We'll see y'all later. Thanks again, Russ. I'll see you tomorrow.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Yep. Take care.